ping went way up. Alright, folks, we are live. So, welcome to Age of Empires Online Project Celeste. We are going to fire off some show matches for you guys. The Community Challenge, Week 2. I am joined by Sean, aka Ardashir, aka, what's your in-game name, my friend?
How are you going?
There you go. Alright, so you guys know Ardashir from the Community Challenge that he set up starting last week, and he's a pretty active PvP player, so he's kind of leading the charge on these community challenges, and so we've got Week 2 ready to go here. We are about to get in-game and show you guys I Am Flavio versus Dak28. It's going to be a best of 3, so it should be a pretty good time. So let's get these guys in here. Ardashir, you want to kind of talk about the community challenge and kind of your goal for the community challenges?
Yeah, just sorry. Dax just messaged to say he's got to just do a quick game. But that should only be like 4. I'll just find out. Sorry. But yeah, sorry. Regarding the community challenge, I guess sort of just keeping up the momentum leading up from the last tournament and the summer event, which really helped the PvP scene in keeping it active, particularly for the regions that aren't quite so in amongst the peak hours, sort of where the Americas and then Europe, Africa, and the Middle East sort of share a good sort of time to play together. And yeah, just sort of build on from that, because eventually we are going to have another tournament, hopefully in December or whenever Romans come out, which might be shortly after. And yeah, just sort of build on that momentum and keep things going. Try and get the game mainstream.
Absolutely. It's an excellent game, folks. If you've never checked out any Age of Empires game, or if you haven't checked out Age of Empires Online, it's completely free to play. It went offline back in 2014 from Microsoft, but the awesome Project Celeste, or is it pronounced Celeste? I don't know. The awesome development team picked it up and have made it completely free to play. So check it out. The links are in the description there. We're just going to try to find our players. You said Dak is in a game right now?
Oh, sorry. No, he's just got to do a quick game scan.
Okay.
He's just got to do a quick game scan and get it actually working again. Axel was in game though, just Flavio.
Is his name just Flavio, or?
I Am Flavio, sorry. I think Dak's about a quarter of the way through his game scan.
Sure, I need to turn on the sound in game, not the music, but the sound. Get that going. Alright, we're going to get Flavio in here. Dak is updating his game. Ardashir, are there any rules as to civ selection or anything like that?
We're not really going to run with any bans. And in terms of the maps, I guess we sort of pick the first map. Just sort of pick something fairly standard, like Equal Footing or Sheltered Pass.
Okay. Sounds good.
I guess you can probably pick either of those, I guess, because you're the streamer today. And then for game 2 and 3, just whoever lost the previous game.
Sounds good.
So which would you like to go with out of those two?
I think it's always good to start on equal footing, you know?
Yeah.
That's a good starting point. All right, we've got Flavio in here. I realized I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning of the cast. Complete noob mistake. So I am the Spaniard. I'm also primarily a PvP player in Age of Empires Online. I dabble in the PvE scene a little bit. But for those of you that, again, may be new to Age of Empires Online or Age of Empires in general, of course, Age of Empires is a classic real-time strategy franchise. Real-time strategy games are near and dear to me, and Age of Empires, I think, is honestly the best franchise out of the RTS genre. Age of Empires Online took the series to kind of a different direction, added some MMO elements. So as we're waiting on Dak here, I'll kind of show you around. This is my capital city. So basically in Age of Empires Online, you're going to have a capital city for each of your civilizations. You're going to be able to level up those civilizations and earn the technology as you level up by playing quests or playing PvP. You get things like milestones as you go along, and you've got materials like your classic, MMO games like World of Warcraft or whatever it may be. But these materials are kind of produced automatically for you. So this is kind of the secondary part of the game, the MMO aspect. But the primary aspect of the game, of course, is the RTS element, where you're either playing quests or you are playing PvP in Sparta or in the arena, as we're going to see today, where you can choose the terms, whereas Sparta is your ranked PvP. And then, of course, you've also got some other game types like skirmish, your classic Age of Empires experience, where you can play with friends against the computer. And then there's also a couple other game modes like defensive Crete. So honestly, it's one of my favorite games of all time.
I think Dak's done, actually. He's just messaged me to say.
Excellent.
So I'm just waiting for him to get in game now.
Thanks PF2K for dropping in and updating our title there. Nope, there's Dak. Let me get him in here. Alright folks, we're about to get into our first match. Just waiting on Dak to accept the invitation. Go ahead and collect my reward here. Alright. Dak is in game. Looks like they're both going with the Celts. Looks like we've got a Celt mirror. Artishare, what do you think about a Celt mirror?
They're amazing.
Yeah?
LE Spheres seems to pretty much be the way to go on small maps with very short rush distances, and then on longer ones, obviously it's probably a bit more slinger long swordsman based. Long swordsman druid based, or all three. Yeah, but in the shorter maps, like sort of paths and equal footing, yeah, you typically see early spears from both players. Even as they go into Age 2, and being Celt, you don't have cavalry till Age 3, so they are your logical raid unit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be. It feels as though it's going to be pretty micro-intensive to see who can kind of control their, like you said, their rating the best, and then their engagements make use of their long swordsman the best. All right, so
Yeah,
it looks like both of our players are ready to hop in the game. So we are going to get started with our first match, folks. I am Flavio versus Dak28, both playing Celts on equal footing. Here we go. go. So I'm going to get our screen set up here. Archer, will you tell us about Equal Footing as a map and kind of what the game plan is on Equal Footing?
Yeah, sorry. Like I said, it's one of the maps with a fairly short rush distance. And unlike Sheltered Pass, you haven't got the passes to really be able to get quite so easy walls up. So you do feel a bit more under pressure in the early game as well, compared to pretty much any other map in the pool at the moment, it feels.
Absolutely, yeah. So, like Arshir is saying here, as you can see, this is Blues Town Sitter down here in the blue corner. We got Dak 28. We got I Am Flavio in the red corner up here in the top. But as you can see, distance between the town centers is pretty short, and it's a pretty straight shot. In fact, they've got a completely straight shot between these kind of islands of trees here. So it's going to be an interesting match, Celt versus Celt, and kind of this pretty open map here. So we've got standard openings from both players. I Am Flavio has got a couple villagers on his hunt here. A couple villagers gathering from this tree right here next to his hunt storehouse. Intelligent play here. Barracks going down for Flavio. Dak does not have his barracks down yet. It looks like he's electing to go for his tree line as opposed to gathering from trees next to his hunt. What do we think about that?
Yeah, well, it's just going to really mean he's got the delayed spears. Because the barracks, he's going to probably opt for that next, or hopefully opt for that next, rather than just trying to age up straight away. Because otherwise he's going to find himself in a very precarious position with very little to defend against the spears. Which, being Celt, they're 40 food, 1 pop unit, so they're probably the most throwaway unit in Age 1 out of all the civs. And going for them on a map like this is pretty much a no-brainer. So it's really smart play from Flavio. It's not necessarily dumb play from Dak, but he really needs to get that barracks down ASAP. Otherwise, he can find himself losing this game quite quickly.
Absolutely. It looks like Dak is just now throwing down his barracks, whereas Flavio has already started training his first. In fact, already has a spear out of his barracks. He's got a couple more in queue here. Looks like Flavio's trying. He's kind of dropped his villager production, though, so I'm a little worried about that. Finally, he gets another villager in his queue here, but it looks like he opted to go heavy on these spears and kind of dropped a villager or two, so that may hurt him in the economy game later on.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be dropping spears too much, and particularly now when he has resources and population space to queue them up, you never want to have downtime then. But otherwise, if you're on, say, 30 or 40 food and you need to wait out for 10 or 20 more, it's not as bad if you're going to make something happen like he is attempting to with the spears at the moment. But it's not something that you want to completely do time and time again, because it will cost you overall in the long run when your opponent has 3 or 4 more villages than you.
Absolutely. So we'll see. And Flavio's not pushing his advantage here. Maybe if he had scouted a little better in Dak's base, he may have noticed that Dak has just now gotten his barracks up and does not have any spears out of his barracks yet. So Flavio kind of losing his advantage there, but we'll see what he elects to do with his group of spearmen here. Both players gathering. Go ahead.
Sorry, Matt.
Go for it.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, it's going to make a completely unnecessary comment that I'm loving the amount of goats that each player has here.
Yeah, they're just stacking them all up at this stage. Yeah, and with Flavio at the moment, it looks like he's opting for the town centre, yet he's also got 6 spears, which is quite heavy. 3 to 5 is really the number that you look at before you push out. Oh, it looks like he's pushing out now, though.
He is, yeah. So Flavio's finally, now that he's got that magic number 6, he has elected to push out. He's sending his scout forward to kind of get some information. He sees that Dak has got 2 spears here. Dak is also going to H2. Flavio a little behind in H2. But as you all can see, the unique part about the Celts is that they've got to throw down 3 houses before they can reach H2. So Dak threw down his 3 houses. I kind of like Dak's base setup here, Ardashir. He's got kind of a wall of houses, throwing down a second barracks. What do you make of Dak's base here?
Well, exactly, especially if his opponent misses placement of any of the buildings. He's got time to pull his units back and have his TC fire at the enemy, and then more or less turn the fight around and potentially even catch them out with villagers or freshly created units coming around the other side, and more or less just cost Flavio the whole army or most of it. But that relies obviously on Flavio attacking into it. But at this stage, yeah, it looks like there's a 3 racks coming out from Flavio, which is quite heavy. But I mean, he looks like he's got the other TC up as well.
Yeah, second TC going down for Flavio here. He's kind of protecting the stone mine. Interesting choice. Usually you see players choose to protect a gold mine with their second town center, but he's also got this hunt here. It'll also protecting these berries, a couple tree lines. So all in all, not a terrible TC placement here in my opinion. Kind of defends the western side of his base here, but we see Flavio pushing in. He's now pushed Dak off of his hunt to the west as well as the southern hunt, but we've got an engagement here. Dax has got some long swordsmen out. He's going to engage these spears. Long swordsmen are anti-infantry, so they are going to make short work of these spears. Flavio is retreating.
Yeah, and the beauty of having 1 or 2 spears there as well is that because they are slightly... I know we didn't separately micro them, I don't think, but what you can do is separately micro them and use the fact that they're faster to tag your opponent's spears in order for your longswords to get 1 or 2 extra hits off.
Absolutely. So we've got Flavio. He's now making some long swordsmen of his own. He's got triple racks here down, so he's going to have some good production, whereas Dak is floating quite a bit of wood, as you all see here. For those who may be newer to the game, generally speaking, you want to try to keep your resource. You want to gather resources as quickly as possible, but then you also want to spend them as quickly as possible. And so Dak is floating quite a bit of wood here. He needs to lay down some more production facilities, whether they be barracks or maybe drop down. I'd like to see a couple sacred groves here, Ardashir, to see some druids get in the army. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, particularly with the new Age 4 tech in the sacred groves that the Celts have gotten with the patch, it's really, really good to try and pump out those early groves and get on your early sacred deer, because then you're basically producing your own hunts. And even getting, 3 of them, or even in longer games, maybe 5 or 6 of them, it's really smart to get them just for macro, and then have 1 or 2 for, just deliberately producing druids on.
Absolutely. Druids are a very important part of the Celt army here, so definitely would like to see Dak maybe get a couple sacred groves down. But he also, he elected for the early Age 2, but he is yet to get his second town center up. So that's kind of an interesting choice from Dak. He's got some long-range gathering here. There he goes. He's going to throw down another storehouse. In fact, Flavio is also electing for some long-range gathering when it comes to these resources here. Generally speaking, for your economy purposes, you want to see a storehouse a little closer to the resources. In fact, Flavio would have a perfect opportunity for a storehouse right here in between these berries and this gold mine to kind of be a dual gathering point there. But those are minor points of criticism there. Both players seem to be doing pretty well this game so far. Dak is gathering his units here. He's finally got another barracks going down, so I'd like to see that. He's continuing this base building where he's kind of building these choke points with his houses, so pretty decent base building here from Dak.
Yeah, and it's smart, and he hasn't got them all in one spot where they're not... I mean, most of them are outside of TC range, but they're not all in one spot either, so while his opponent can pick them off, they're not too undefendable, and at worst he's only going to lose 2 or 3. And he has, the wood in the bank to throw down more. Ideally, he really should get his second TC out as quick as possible, particularly that he went for a fast Age 2 build. So he's really got to look at addressing that, but otherwise, he's actually not doing too badly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It looks like he's finally dropping a villager down on the stone mine here. Needs to get a storehouse up here so he can gather that stone more quickly. He does have a couple druids out himself now. He's got a sacred grove going down. He's electing to go for a couple archery ranges here, so we'll see what he does with that. But he definitely needs to start gathering more stone. There goes his storehouse there. More stone so that he can get his second town center up, both for defense but also economy purposes. As you kind of mentioned, while his houses are nicely placed as kind of walls, choke points. It also is a little dangerous because, like you mentioned, he may drop a couple houses at an inopportune time where he gets what we call pop capped, where his population is capped and he cannot produce any more units. So he definitely needs to get maybe a town center over here on the west side to defend these houses, or somewhere so that he can start that second town center villager production.
Yeah, meanwhile Flavio's using walls instead, and while it requires having to spend the stone, it is safer in the long run to go for the...
Absolutely, it's definitely a better choice than using your houses, your precious population houses. So Flavio deciding to throw down a wall here to protect the western flank of his town center here. But here we go, we've got an engagement, folks. Dak moving in with his long swordsman. He's going to be caught off a little off guard here by Flavio's long swordsman. He's going to make quick work of Dak's army here. In fact, he didn't push out with his entire army. He's got some back defending. I'm not sure what the purpose of that Ardashir was, to kind of push in with that small force to gather information, perhaps. I'm not sure.
I think so, and maybe just to try and catch some villagers on the that front wood, because I think there's actually some, like, he's sort of come up on the left side, and I think there is actually production facilities or something up on the right side, just heading into Flavio's base.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying. Where at?
If you just look at the front side of Flavio's base, yeah, pretty much right where your mouse is over the screen, he's got some workers on the wood line there, and realistically, if they were on that other wood line to the left, and the army was a little bit further to the right, he actually could have caught something then, but, realistically he should be just looking at throwing in, even if he hasn't got a scout, just a single unit ahead to go and scout it out before he runs in, because otherwise he can get caught out like that.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. He could have, if he had scouted a little bit better, known the information that he had these, Flavio had these villagers here, he may have been able to pick a couple off, but instead he kind of threw his army there. So maybe a point for Dak to improve his play would be to make use of this scout. His scout, in fact, is just kind of sitting here on the right side of his base, which I guess is, providing information for a flank coming from the right side of his base, the eastern side of his base here. But nevertheless, if you're going to push in, you definitely want to get information before you push into your opponent's base. Meanwhile, Flavio has thrown down his third town center. He has gone to age 3. So he's got his third town center here, kind of in a forward position. I really like this this town center placement here, Ardashir. It's kind of in a forward position to defend while also defending these 3 key resources here.
Well, that's it. He's really, if you count the 2 trees, he's got every single resource right there, and he's got some wood up behind him as well, and he's right in front of his production facilities. Considering he can see that he's ahead on the score, at least, it's not a bad play.
Absolutely.
Definitely not. And if he's intending to keep his army parked up there, or do what he's doing now and creep up forward ever more, try and get a fortress or more production facilities or towers out ahead here, he can really make good work. And then if he loses the villages per se, it's only a very short walking distance to resupply with them as well as his army.
Absolutely. We see Flavio's kind of pushing out here, trying to establish some map presence, make advantage of, like you said, his higher economy right now. He basically has an advantage in most aspects of the game, so he is definitely taking advantage of that and going for this forward fortress here, as you predicted. So we'll see how he makes use of that. Meanwhile, Dak has pushed out here to the western side of the map. He's got a market down. He's going to get a market line going, but Ardashir, I just noticed Dak has yet to get his second town center up. He still does not have a second town center up. In fact, he's going to age 3 and does not have a second town center. So definitely needs to remember to throw down those town centers so that he can get that villager production, that defense. In fact, he's now in age 3, but has yet to throw down.
Have a look at
Flavio's
queue as well. He's got lots of deer queued up. He's really embracing the Celt economy. And unfortunately for Dak, you really need to throw down, particularly your second town center, as soon as you can. Your third, it's in a bit more of a toss-up as to whether or not you go with it or your market first, and then the other. But yeah, realistically, you need to be on 3 TC and market before you can worry about just trying to max out and push out most of the time, unless one of you is trying to all in the other.
Absolutely, yeah. He's throwing down some guard towers here to defend his base, but really you want to see that stone being put to good use to throw down a couple town centers first. He's in fact got room for 2 more town centers now, and can also build fortresses. And he's got quite a bit of stone to be able to do that. So although he is a little low on wood here, I'd like to see maybe some more storehouses along his tree line here to improve his wood gathering. So I think Dak's biggest point of improvement here from this game would be his overall macro, his economy here, to make sure that his economy is keeping up with Flavio's.
Oh, definitely. Compositionally, I think he's not really faring too badly. He's got the right units. He just doesn't have enough of them.
Absolutely. We'll see if Flavio decides to make use of his advantage here. He's biding his time, growing his army. He's almost at the 180 population cap. It does look like he's going to be moving in here. Big engagement coming. We see Dak trying to move a regiment of longswordsmen to the flank. See if he can get back to these bowmen. These bowmen are going to make quick work of these longswordsmen. We've got a few slingers in the back for Dak, but he needs to micro these onto the bowmen. And we see Flavio.
Yeah, like he said, the slingers don't really seem to do much unless they're actually attacking the bowmen. And like we both mentioned earlier, the smaller force is really what's hurt him here. He's got the right units, but he just doesn't have enough of them. And he's just been completely overwhelmed by the longsword count. And he could probably mix in some bows as well. But getting on slingers to counter your opponent's bows is always nice to have.
Yeah, like you said, you just got to make use of them. Make sure that you're selecting your slingers and getting them on the bowmen, slinger tagging those bowmen. Dak is trying to defend his base here, but now he's got no villager production as his town center went down. Although he did finally get his second town center here, but it looks like Flavio is going to make quick work of Dak's base here. Took down those towers, took down his army. These longswordsmen, bowmen, druid kind of composition here for Flavio has just completely wrecked Dak.
Yeah, I think he's just sort of just building what he can, seeing if he's got anything left in the tank, spending the last of his bank, and then I think we're probably going to have a GG for the first game.
It looks that way for sure. Flavio taking down the production facilities of Dak. Dak has got one last holdout of slingers, the last slingers we'll call them. We'll see if they can make their last stand here betwixt these two archery ranges. But these longswords.
Last stand at the Alamo.
That's right. The last stand of Dak's Alamo, but these longswordsmen are going to take them out. But we will remember those slingers, just like the Alamo. We will not forget them. Nevertheless, Flavio moving in here, even throwing down a fortress in the middle of Dak's old base here.
Mana fortress.
to make sure no one forgets
that
Flavio is in fact the owner of this land. Void Shifter, thank you very much for the follow for the Project Celeste Twitch page here. Thanks for joining the stream here, folks. We're just wrapping up the final game here. It looks like, or I'm sorry, the first game here. Now it looks like Dak is going to try to make perhaps a second last stand here, throwing down a fortress. But as he
out on the town center though.
Yeah, exactly. He probably should have chosen a town center. For those who are new to the game, as you can see here, there's a countdown for Dak. Starts at, I believe, 2 minutes. So once your final town center is destroyed, you've got 2 minutes to get another town center up. Otherwise, you have lost the game. Despite not resigning, despite still having units, you will lose the game automatically if you do not have a town center up.
Actually, if he pulls most of the villages off the fortress just before it pops up and throws down the town center straight away, that probably would be the most optimal way in this position, even though he's like extremely far behind and there's almost no way to come. Well, no way to come back, I'd say, at this point, now that he's, been caught with nothing. But,
right. Yeah, it looks like Flavio's caught his last stand here. Make quick work of that.
It's not going to get... Oh, he needs to get all the villagers right on the TC, as on both sides as close to the fortress as possible and just try and micro them in and out. But oh no, it's too little, too late. Flavio still queuing up his deer, still queuing up workers, taking upgrades.
Indeed, Flavio's land is flourishing. He's got plenty of lumberjacks, plenty of deer, and he is in fact making use of those sacred deer. So Flavio is flourishing, whereas Dak has got a measly 12 seconds to live.
Does he even have any villages?
He must,
Is it
because
just the market? Oh no, yeah, that's right. He must, yeah. Oh, there we go. I think he deleted the villager.
okay. All right, there we go. Good game. Good game from Flavio and Dak. Entertaining end there. But yeah, I think it was really just the economy. Dak didn't throw down his second town center or his third town center once he hit H3. He did okay in the beginning, but he kind of fell off there towards the end because of his economy. You can see, of course, the score was fairly even in the beginning, but started to slowly drift apart here towards the end as Flavio took control of the game. Units trained, we see again Flavio just continued to grow while Dak kind of evened out there. Let's look at villagers. Interestingly enough, Dak kind of stayed with it with the villagers there for a while, but as you can see, he kind of flatlines here between minutes 4 and 5, and then
that'll be where he cut villages that we were talking about earlier in the game.
Yeah.
And then from then on, pretty much because he got up that second TC, funnily enough, after that much quicker. From then on, it was just a much bigger economy.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna throw a GG in chat and see if these gentlemen are ready for the second game. While they are doing that, I'm going to go to our post game. Give us a little, maybe a 2-minute intermission here for those gentlemen to select their next civs. We'll update the score here. So this is going to be a best of 3. So Flavio taking game 1, although I just realized that I got blue and red backwards, but that's okay.
I might be 1 sec, mate.
All right, sounds good. Ardashir is going to take a break. So again, folks, if you are new to Age of Empires Online Project Celeste, it is a completely free-to-play game. You can find the link to the game in the description below. Listen, this game is a ton of fun. If you're not much of a PvP player like we're seeing right now, then we've still got something for you. We can hit you with some player versus environment. You've got questing. You've got a defensive creep mode where you're basically defending against waves of enemies. You've got your standard MMO aspects of the game like we talked about earlier, where you're gathering resources, you're doing crafting, you're building your capital city. So you've got the MMO aspects of the game, you've got your single player or co-op questing aspect of the game. You've got your classic Age of Empires experience in skirmish mode, where you can gather some friends and just play on a map, a random seeded map against computers. And then of course you've got my personal favorite aspect of the game, player versus player. Even though I'm not the greatest, it's still a great time. So if you haven't already, check out ProjectCeleste.com. Download the game. Super easy, completely free to play. There's no reason not to check the game out. So good game to our players there. We're just going to give them a second to choose their civs. We're going to let Ardashir come back. I'm going to take a look at chat here real quick. Dak says his mistake was when he forgot to build houses. Yeah, Dak, that and plus town center. You hit age 2, but then you never threw down your town center until the very end. So got to keep up with that villager production and that economy. So GG. Chinla, thanks for joining. Greeky, thanks for joining. Weary Wout. I used to say it incorrectly, Woot, but I believe it's Wout. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Wow, thanks. Says love the casting. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. We're having a good time here. Correct. Excellent. Excellent. That is correct. All right. So I'm going to get back in the game here and see if our gentlemen are ready. Let's see. Folks, thanks for joining us. I don't know where you're at in the world. I am in the eastern U.S., so it's quite early on a Saturday, at least early for me, 8:30. But wherever you're at in the world, thanks for joining us. All right, so looks like Dak and Flavio have both elected to maintain their Celts. So let me check and see what Dak would like as his second map. So we're going to get the map choice from Dak here. And then we'll hop right into game 2. We'll see if Dak can pull it to an even 1-1 or if Flavio will close it out with a 2-0 sweep. We will see. Just getting the second map here. Again, both players choosing to keep their civs. So we're going to see a Celt versus Celt mirror again. The Celts are personally my favorite civilization. When I first started playing the game back when it was live with Microsoft, I loved the Persians when they came out. I played the Babylonians were probably my favorite back in the day. But just something about the Celts has really drew me in recently. But again, for those of you who are new to the game, there are 6 total civilizations. You've got your classic Greeks and Egyptians. You've got your Celts. And then you've got 3 pro civilizations, meaning they start at level 20, which are the Persians, the Babylonians, and the Norse. And we have
Sorry, Spaniard.
Now go for it. What's up?
I just saw in chat where that said we've just missed the opportunity to say Dak will bring it back.
Well, thank you for that. I should not have missed that. Absolutely. Let's see if Dak can bring it back, or if Flavio will. I can't even think of a rhyme for Flavio. All right. So, as I was saying, the Romans are going to be our 7th civilization. So they're going to be released in the coming months. Super excited about that. So 7 total civilizations after the Romans. Borrowed Feathers, thank you for the follow on the Project Celeste channel here. Appreciate that. Ardashir is back, so we're going to see if our players are ready. Dak asked for Bandit Canyon.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ardashir? Is Bandit Canyon okay? Even though it's not in the map pool yet right now on
Yeah,
Sparta?
well, I mean, it was in last pool. I mean, if unless Flavio really hates it, I don't see why not. It's a bit of a cheesy map though, because your first hunt. It's a lot like Arabia in a sense, but sort of inverted because the Rush instances are still fairly in the middle, but the player spawns are really close. And like I said, the hunts, it's a bit like Arabia's, where it's quite a fair bit away from your base, and it's down on a low ground when you're on a high ground. So it sort of feels like you've got to expand onto basically your optimal food source. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them proxies the other. I think a lot of people have mucked around with proxies on that map just because if your opponent doesn't scout it, and if he's stuck on berries and you've taken hunts, or you've scouted his hunts, you can pretty much outright win the game off.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to see if our players are ready here. We're going to get into game 2. Yeah, it should be interesting to say the least. Bandit Canyon is an interesting map for the reasons that you just mentioned. So, all right, looks like both of our players are ready. So let's see if we can get into it here. Let's see if I can get the colors correct this time. Let's see here. Flavio's blue, Dak is red. We're going to go on Bandit Canyon. Here we go. All right. Let's get rolling. Let's see if Dak can bring it back. Chandler says Flavio improved since the last time we played. I see. Yeah, Flavio, if I'm not mistaken, Archie, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Flavio is, I believe he plays StarCraft, maybe?
I'm not exactly sure. I think he does play another RTS, but I'm not exactly sure. I think it probably would be StarCraft because that seems to be where most of us have come from. But yeah, like mechanically and in terms of like his economic sense, he's really improved recently.
Absolutely, he's definitely a quick learner. So we've got Dak in the red corner here, electing to go for his berries here as he scouts his surrounding area. Flavio, same deal, going for his berries here. Flavio has discovered his first hunt here to the east. Dak has yet to discover his hunt. Unfortunate for him there.
Yeah, I think it just sort of he just missed the one deer, but I think it just sort of shows where this is one of those maps where, because it's not a non-standard site, you go, okay, what the hell's going on? And you instinctively try and scout the other player, and until you've actually played it a fair few times, you deviate from opening onto your hunt. And even still, a lot of people, once they have learned the map a little bit, they still will opt for the berries a little bit longer before opening onto the hunt. And in either case, like sometimes you just get damn unlucky, even when you know the map, and you just can't find that bloody hunt for 8.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's a little unfortunate for Dak there. He is still kind of gathering long distance from his bushes there. He's got 8 villagers down in his berry bushes, but he is going through for his wood store line here, whereas Flavio, we do see, has gone for his hunt and is collecting wood next to his hunt, and therefore has been able to throw down his barracks here.
Yeah, exactly. Dak's really delayed on his wood gathering on this one. I think once he realized that he wasn't going to get a quick hunt, he probably should have thrown down the storehouse straight away with a couple of villagers. I think he is actually is actually on a hunt. Yeah. Although that's quite a fair few villagers on it. I mean, I know he's Celt, but if you're going to go that many, you might as well force out an early hunting dogs instead.
Indeed.
And that's probably going to be costly. I don't think he realized that.
Yeah, I don't think he realized. For those of you who may be new to the game, when your villagers build a storehouse, they will automatically gather from a nearby resource unless you kind of, at least for me, shift right-click so that their next action will be to gather from the resource that you want them to. So unfortunate for Dak there, they started gathering from stone for a little bit. Although that is an interesting choice. I wonder if he'll make use of this stone mine so that he can get down his second town center this game.
Yeah, well that's it. Rather than throwing down a storehouse, like if he had positioned it close to that stone mine, he really could have completely ignored having to throw it down at home instead. But then obviously it would have cost him because he would have had to take longer to gather from. But I mean, the game's all about trade-offs a lot of the time, particularly with the fact that there is, the random maps. Whereas games like Warcraft and StarCraft, everything's preset.
Indeed. So we'll see if Dak can make use of his kind of unfortunate hunting situation there. We do see Flavio moving in with 3 spearmen. He's gonna kind of poke in, see what he can discover here. Chooses to move back a little bit.
He's not actually queued up anything at home. Like, he's got the food to age, and the pop space to build villages. Oh no, there.
Yeah, you're right there. He did kind of, for a few seconds, drop some precious time. He didn't queue up his Bronze Age or any villagers, but he did finally drop it there. He's moving to Age 2, training more spears, while Dak here is electing to go for the Picker's Gloves economy upgrade. What do you think of that move there, Artishir?
Well, that means he's having taken both food upgrades now, which is really interesting because most people would probably only get one before they age and then look at taking the other behind having taken other upgrades, such as particularly their wood tier 1 upgrade, followed by probably their gold tier 1 upgrade, and probably the 3 first before you opt for the second food. But obviously every game's different, but that looks like it's really going to cost Dak.
Yeah, it is. It looks like Dak is getting caught off guard here. He's kind of just letting his villagers stand here. Flavio finally noticing there and is going to make quick work of that poor villager.
Oh yeah, so 2 houses and the villager. That's pretty big early on. He's not getting a lot of wood because he's forcing out that storehouse with all the villagers. It makes the build quicker, but the more villagers you've got, the less the next will actually add to reducing the build time. So realistically, even when you want to build things fast, you're really only best off with going with 2 or 3. And if you're in a situation where you're throwing up multiple buildings at once, and you've got say 8 villages, you want to go with like 3-3-2 or something of that nature, rather than just brute forcing all 8 onto the first building, because it's actually less efficient. And even though the first building might not come up as fast, you're going to have all 3 up around the same time, and that's usually going to be a lot more deadly.
Indeed. And Dak is finally, I was about to say, he needs to queue up his H2. He's finally throwing down his H2. Flavio has kind of got his spears split here. He's not noticing this cheeky storehouse from Dak. Dak is going to try to gather right under the nose of Flavio's spearman.
He's defending for him.
But he does finally notice, so he's going to pop off another villager there.
You're going to have to back out, because does he actually have anything on the field at the moment? Oh, he's got his spear.
He does have a sizable spearman army. Altogether, 10 spears. Flavio's got a regiment of 3 at the top here. Another 4 going to take down this storehouse.
I just realized neither player actually swapped civs, so we've just had 2 CBC games in a row.
Correct. They decided that they wanted to keep their Celts, which, who can blame them? The Celts are a great civ, but does make for an interesting matchup. We'll see if they choose to do anything different this go around, especially Dak. It looks like Dak, as opposed to defending his base, is going to choose to counter push here. Interesting choice.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's missed that first hunt, but yeah, he's... Oh, actually, no, it's all cleared out, sorry. But yeah, he's pushed straight into his opponent's base now, although this isn't a very good fight to take. Like, he doesn't have the spear count to really overwhelm the longs, and they don't trade well enough into them, 2-1 or even 3-1 to warrant the fight, particularly in the TC range. Indeed.
We see Flavio's going to go for a Sacred Grove here. It does look like Dak, what do we call that? A Pyrrhic victory. Dak did, in fact, kill the longswordsman of Flavio, but at what cost? He lost all 10 of his spearmen, so I don't know that was the best choice.
400 food. Like, I mean, I know the spears are cheap, but that's 400 food for basically, what, 120 food, 100 gold or something of that. It's, in that instance, it's not worth the trade, and he really probably should have split them up and tried to take the villages either side of the long swordsman, because there was less of them, and the spears are actually faster, I believe. So yeah, the sky's the limit with how well you can micro in that situation, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The speed of the spearmen is 4.1, whereas long swordsmen are 7.
Oh, well, that spear might have been snared.
Oh, true. Yeah, true. This spear. There it is. Yeah.
Oh no, they're both 7. Are they? Oh, okay, so they're both 7. I stand corrected on that one. But even still, if you've got greater unit numbers, you can still force your opponent out of position as he tries to take, say, 2 or 3 that have gone in on one side, particularly because it's long swordsman v spearman, and then you send the other, 7 in on the other.
Right.
And actually get something and warrant taking in the TC fire on your spears. Otherwise, in that position, you just really probably should just back out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's Dak can't really afford to waste any villager or waste any resources here. Yet again, he is not elected to get his second town center up. He's kind of slowly gathering from stone here. He's pretty low on his wood gathering as well. Very high on food, which he's got a large portion of his villagers gathering food, but then also, from those, like we mentioned earlier, electing to go for both the berry bush upgrade and the huntable upgrade on his economy, has just kind of created a situation where he's floating a lot of food, but doesn't have very many other resources to kind of catch up here.
Exactly, and because he's throwing down slingers now, he can't even get out houses, and the town centre is going to be super delayed. He's got so many workers on his gold, and a reasonable number still on his food, and realistically he could cut all of them off there for even like the next 30 seconds or so, then pull half of them back on, just to try and even out his resources. And yeah, like we've been saying, just throw down that second TC as early as he can, because without it, you're basically kneecapped economically versus an opponent who's got.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Dak, again, if you are kind of going back, not to make a rhyme there, if you go back and watch your play here, again, we would just encourage you to get down that second town center once you hit H2. And in fact, Flavio, as a result of his excellent economy, is going to be heading to H3 here. Is going to continue to push his advantage against Dak. He went for a pretty town center placement that was pretty far west of his base, deciding to protect this gold mine. But as I was just about to say, I expect that he'll also throw down a market and try to protect the market line with his town center over here.
Yeah, that's pretty smart placement for the town center, because at that side, that gold is a lot closer to the gold just south as well. So he's got a lot better chance of defending two golds at once by holding, compared to the other side where he's got probably 3 screens worth of distance.
Right. Yeah, so good placement there from Flavio, building his base, getting a market line up, going to continue to improve his economy. He's got another Sacred Grove or two coming down here, get some Druids in his army, although I'm kind of interested to see here, Flavio doesn't have a very sizable army at the moment. He's got a few long swordsmen, a few Druids here, but he is throwing down some more barracks, so it looks like we'll be seeing some increased military population from Flavio pretty soon.
Well, that's it. I think he's just really rounding out his economy, and he knows now that he's defended that first push from Dak, he's probably going to be safe for the next couple of minutes, so he might as well make the best use of the time as possible. And even though Dak's only really just started to fall behind on score, and they were neck and neck for most of the game leading up till now, I think Flavio realizes that he's got an opportunity where he can out-macro his opponent before he actually gets pushed into, and try and win the game through that.
Absolutely.
Because right now, like, he's got 8 villages in queue, and he's got deer as well. So with the deer as well, like, he's got not only the economy out of that, but because he's also got druids, he can get the buffs with that. So if Dak doesn't respond with the same, or, well, he's getting archers now, it's going to look very hairy for him, I think.
Indeed. We'll see what they choose to do here. Flavio biding his time, growing his army. Dak does, I mean, he does have a sizable army here. A few slingers here. Again, if if he can micro those slingers well to take out these bowmen that... or I'm sorry, Dak is training the bowman. So,
yeah,
bad casting for me. I missed that Dak went to H3 here, and is training some bowmen for himself here. And his
throwing down a big wall. Yeah,
choosing to go for perhaps a great wall, if you will.
Oh, but we've got Flavio opting for the top corner, I think.
Does look like it. Interesting.
He's going to pinch a hunt from Dak.
Kind of cheeky play there from Flavio. You know, sometimes the best choice is to go where your opponent would least expect it. I very much doubt that Dak will expect his opponent to be gathering from his own hunt in his own northernmost corner, but we'll see. Finally, Dak choosing to throw down his second town center. Dak, well done. I'm so very proud of you. Finally getting that second town center. I'm very glad to see that.
That's it, and with this unit comp with mixed range, even though he doesn't have any druids, I don't think, or he's only got a couple of druids, I think the mixed range comp's going to work in his favour as long as he's got a fairly even number of longswords and he manages to make use of this. Because if you're getting a range v rage trade-off, you're instantly going to win that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Flavio going, for that heavy druid longswordsman composition, kind of like you mentioned before the match started. When we were talking about that Celt versus Celt matchup, typically you're going to see, like you mentioned earlier on, the kind of just the longswordsman druid from both players. But Dak choosing to go for the range here, so we'll see if he can make use of that, as you said, micro well and make use of his slingers and his bowman together. It's going to take a lot of micro power.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, he's got the earlier woads out too, I think.
Indeed.
So they're a good anti-ranged as well. So it looks like he's really worried about his opponent's range, because Flavio's queuing up a whole bunch of bowmen now too. So it's going to get really interesting, because I think Dak, realistically, if he doesn't throw in the fact that Flavio's got the 4 units versus the 3, I think his synergy is going to be better in the fight. But obviously, it all still comes down to fight micro as well and positioning.
Absolutely. So we'll see what the players can do with that there. Dak, if he again, another thing in addition to his town center and his overall macros, his scouting. If he were to scout the army of Flavio right now, I don't know. He may choose to push in and try to catch Flavio off guard. Flavio's got an undefended town center, kind of a lone town center on this gold mine here. He is going for this, continuing this cheeky play here, throwing down a fortress here in the top corner.
And interestingly enough, I think Flavio's actually got a lot more in the queue. He was only at 113 population only a second ago, whereas Dak has sort of slowly lifted up to 150. So I think for now, Dak's actually got more on the field, but it's all just sitting in his base, and that's not really a position where you want to be in. I mean, I know it's nice to hide your composition from your opponent, but at the same time, if you're letting them have free reign of particularly more than half them, it can come back to bite you in the long run.
That is very true. And in fact, just a couple minutes ago, Flavio had approximately 30 longswordsmen in addition to 5 druids on the field, while Dak had a sizable amount of longswordsmen in addition to his bowmen, slingers, and druids, as well as, like you mentioned earlier, a couple woad raiders. So, Dak, maybe if he had scouted a little better, he could have taken advantage of that situation.
Yeah, exactly. And now that lead in terms of his army size has sort of been pilfered, really. Well, I mean, sort of been pissing in the wind. And Flavio's gearing up to basically, I think, wait for Dak to attack him and then push him with the rams.
That would be a good call from Flavio. Flavio, again, he's got hit this fortress here. He's building a couple rams. He's hoping to get maybe some cheeky destruction here in the top. Dak throwing down a stable. We'll see what he does with that. But Dak has got this kind of town center that is pretty alone back here in the corner on this tree line. So Flavio could take advantage of that situation with these rams. Flavio has found the Great Wall of Dak. So he is going to push through this Great Wall of Dak here. Dak now sees that he is coming in with his army. He is going to move his army into position. Folks, we may have our first big engagement of the game. He got that wall
He's
upgrade.
Got the upgrade.
Just too late. That poor girl is going to get
Flavio
destroyed.
probably should look at taking out another segment, though, just to give himself the room to move on. He's doing it now. He's going to take out another 2. Oh no, he's moving in.
Indeed. Here we go, folks.
But this is
see.
a fallback thing.
You think Dak should fall back here?
No, I mean, just in terms of clearing the wall, it just gives you the option to either fall back or reinforce much easier. But yeah, I do think he probably should reinforce slightly. Fall back slightly and try and reinforce, because it's going to be much easier for Dak to reinforce in this position.
That is true.
I think. Dak.
Yep.
Yeah, he definitely has the infantry disadvantage, and that's shown in that fight. But all these bows, if he micros this well enough, he can kill all the long swordsmen first.
Yeah, and I think we just saw an excellent example of how important micro is in an RTS game and in Age of Empires Online. If Dak had microed his longswordsman onto the longswordsman of Flavio and taken his bowman onto the longswordsman, while his slingers tagged the bowman of Flavio, then perhaps he could have pulled that fight out in his advantage. Because Flavio's only left with about 20-25 units after that fight. So Dak, with a little bit of micro there, could have possibly turned that engagement in his favor. But and in fact, I saw earlier that Dak has also got a few upgrades here. Oh, we got a nice flank from Flavio. There's the Wodes. There's the Ram.
Oh, that's really nice. He's going to take 3 or 4 houses at once because he's got all 4 Rams up there.
Yeah, he did get that town center up in the north.
And yeah, like you said, not having micro that fight means that Dak's left with next to nothing, where Flavio's got, 25 units just sitting out there denying all that. I mean, ideally they probably should come in just to help give the Rams a bit less, because the whole army's going to try and beat down on them now. But yeah, this is probably more, I guess, intermediate to advanced level ways of approaching the fights that players that might be, players that are less experienced might not have just learned yet, and it takes a mix of experience and being told it, I think. And sometimes, everyone's different. Sometimes it might be one or the other for any particular aspect of the game.
Indeed. So Dak, again, just getting that kind of better macro in the early game, throwing down his town centers, making better use of his army there in terms of the micro, choosing to...
Well, speaking of better use of micro, he's just run a whole bunch of villages through his opponent's town center.
Indeed.
But he manages to pull them all out. He's only lost one here, and the Druid's going to medicate that last one. Oh, but he's running individual Rams in. That's probably something that you don't want to be doing, because they are a little costly. And if your opponent has enough infantry, or if they've got a small number of villagers or cavalry, the siege is dead.
Very true. So again, it looks like we're going to see a last stand situation from Dak. I believe Dak's days are numbered, but we'll see if Dak can go on the attack. Dak's name is too easy, too fun. Flavio on the eastern side of Dak's base here is choosing to throw down a fortress to kind of stranglehold Dak into his base. He has once again brought his army up to a sizable amount here, kind of poking, prodding. Gonna see what he can do here. Gonna take down the watchtower of Dak on the east there. Here comes some more Rams from Flavio. Flavio's gonna try to take down an archer range, but I believe with these Woad Raiders, he's not gonna be able to take down that archery range.
Exactly. They even get a bonus against siege as well as range, don't they?
Indeed.
Yeah. Particularly into another kill player, if they've got infantry, you got to be a bit. But particularly against cavalry, is probably the most punishing. If you've got undefended siege, it's really hard to make use of them if your opponent sees them. So you're nearly always best off fielding a small number of cavalry or spearmen of your own to try and defend them.
Absolutely, and we see Flavio going to the golden age, the final age of the game, age 4. He's throwing down some stables here. Might see some horsemen or some carpentums. We'll see. But this
is some real nice pressure with the fortress on the houses.
It is.
Dak's going to have to try and rebuild on the other side, and then that puts him in a precarious position because obviously he's already got buildings going down, and the Rams are going to start coming out. So he's got to throw up a wall or something here on that side, or try and take out that fortress.
Indeed, we'll see what Dak chooses to do. He's got a small force here to make his last stand. Here comes some more Rams from Flavio. Flavio's moving in. He's going to very nicely use his woes to take out these ranged units of Dak. Going to make short work of Dak's army here. Flavio again.
Another forward fortress. I don't think Dak's going to have the units to even be able to push Flavio out, let alone take that down. So I think this is pretty much going to be.
Indeed, it looks like this is another good game coming in here for Flavio. Gonna make sure the job is done by queuing up a bunch of horsemen from his forward stables here, but I don't even believe those will be necessary. He's made quick work of the town center of Dak.
Yep, Dak's on no town centers again, and he doesn't have the wood nor the stone to actually get another one up. He's throwing down a bunch of houses, and he probably doesn't even have the villages to try and get there, I think, at this stage. Not that it matters, like, with the army disparity, it's just too much at this stage.
It is. So, once again, a good game from Flavio. You know, Dak tried to get some defense up with his great wall tactic here. But Ardeshir, what do you think about this one large, long wall across the entire map versus kind of walling off certain choke points?
Well, you've got to outlay more resources, and then you've also got to try and defend the entirety of it. And then the moment your opponent presses any part of it, when you do go to defend it, he can obviously try and pressure another part of it. Or if he breaks through anywhere, you know, run around through around the base anyway. And if you sort of segmentally do it, and do it with a creep, it really locks down each zone as its own little, well, basically its own little deadlock zone. So your opponent can only get so far at once. Although it probably does require a bit more planning around throwing the walls down in your build, because you're going to have to go back and do it several times. And another thing is, you know, advanced players will often throw down 2 or even 3 wall lines at once, just to deter the siege in particular, because it can bust through in only a matter of seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the kind of better way to go there, with those multiple lines of walls along those important choke points. More easily defended, more difficult for the opponent to get through here. So, yeah, Dak, if you're watching this VOD later, again, your points of improvement, just work on that macro for your economy, getting your town centers down, doing more work with your scout to get information on your opponent, and then just kind of learning the aspects of the game in terms of map control and things of that nature. So, but good games from Flavio, well played from Flavio. You know, Flavio's doing well with his town center placement, with his overall macro. Flavio, I think, also perhaps could scout maybe a little better, so that he can know when to take advantage and when to push in, as opposed to, you know, biding his time, drawing the game out, giving his opponent an opportunity to make a comeback, and instead taking advantage of his position when he has it.
Exactly. I mean, he made good use of his scout, but you can nearly always make better use of it. And you can even look at using your early military units. If you're not going to raid with them, sneak them round all the hunts and stuff on the map, or take them with your horse, with your scout, and yeah, run some spears or some longswords around the map, just so you know that your opponent's not sending anything out, and that he hasn't got anything that's going to be easy for you to take off him. Like if he's got a hunt or a gold mine with 6 or 8 villages well away from his base, and if you know his cavalry somewhere else on the map, or his force, kill them. And it can be, you know, it can be the difference between going into age 2 or 3 ahead or behind.
Yeah, absolutely true. So again, well played from both players. Good games here, entertaining, but we'll take a look at some quick stats here. Villagers trained, probably one of your most important stats in Age of Empires Online, and as we can see here, Flavio really started to pull ahead of Dak kind of towards the mid game, as a result of those town centers and being able to produce more villagers simultaneously, versus Dak and his one, eventually 2 town centers.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I think Dak actually got on the second one then a little later, but he still got on it,
Right.
and then lost it. But funnily enough, I think Flavio ended up stopping worker production as well. Well, I mean, slowing it down.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
and there is a period there where he did actually stop it. Well, there's a couple of them actually towards the end, and yeah, basically, if you've already got the villagers out and you've got the advantage, you can obviously more or less focus on, I wouldn't say all-inning, but basically cutting your economic growth to try and finish the game off that bit earlier. Obviously, it's a really big judgment call, because it can throw away the game as well. But it's not uncommon for people, even at the top level of, like, say, StarCraft, to know Innovation was famous for basically mixing up Terran by cutting workers in his when he was in the 40s and 50s with his worker counts, just because he could field one or two more extra units, and particularly if he was getting out extra harass or defending extra harass early, it could be the difference between winning and losing the game, even though it's not the economic choice.
Right. Right, and another important thing that I was just kind of taking a look at here, well, real quick, actually, Dak in chat requested to see the military trained. Dak, as you can see, and everyone else, as you can see, like we mentioned, Artis, here kind of in the mid-game there, Dak had more military trained for actually several minutes. He had the higher military count from about about minute 6 all the way until towards the end of the game here at
till the 18th, I suppose. Yeah. And then he sort of still keeps almost even, sort of around the 21st.
Indeed. But what I was going to say is, Dak and all the viewers watching, another important thing to note, and in fact I think Greeky was mentioning it in chat. If we look here at the text. The technologies researched, Dak did get some armory upgrades towards the end there, but as we can see, Flavio also had the lead in technologies researched.
Yeah, and it sort of goes both ways in terms of economy and your fighting force, because obviously if you've got better structure with how you plan out and force out your economic upgrades, it can snowball into being able to throw out earlier military upgrades, and then from there, like, you can win almost entirely through having gotten that aspect of the game down pat over your opponent.
Right.
Obviously, if he raids the shit out of you and you throw the game away through that because you've got no villages, that's a bit of an exception. But yeah, it's really important to try and get out the techs that are going to give your army the edge over your opponents. And one of the easiest ways to do that, if he's not harassing you, is to do it through expanding your economy as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that strong economy is certainly the backbone of any good Age of Empires player. You've got to be able to rebound, to be able to grow your military, your techs through that strong economy. Definitely the foundation of good play there. So again, well played from both players. Flavio, Dak, thanks for the games. We appreciate you guys. Yeah, Arch, that's game number 1. I'm going to go over to our intermission screen here, update our official score. Flavio takes the first show match 2-0. So congratulations to Flavio on his victory.
Oh, and thanks for coming along for the cast.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun casting the game with you. When I casted back in the Gear to Gauntlet tournament by myself, it's fun by yourself, but it's even more fun with a co-caster to kind of tag team and kind of look into what's going on there.
Oh, for sure, and it doesn't feel like as much work either, because you don't have to handle both the analytical side and the running commentary side, I think. Yeah, I'm really going to appreciate that in a couple of hours' time, I think.
Absolutely. So I believe, folks, correct me if I'm wrong, Archie, I believe we have got the next match coming up is going to be Casper versus, what is that, King Khan 4? Is that going to start immediately after this game?
I think we're just going to take a short break, because I don't think Ken Khan's here at the moment. I think he's just gone A. We'll be 1 sec though. It's really sort of a filler game, because Madlib was going to be late in his game versus Crimson, and these guys sort of stepped up and said, "Hey, look, we're both wanting to play, so I'll just have to hang 5, I suppose, and then keep everyone posted."
All right, sounds great. So for everyone tuning in, you just heard it there. We're going to take a few-minute break here. I actually am going to be gone for the day, but Ardashir is going to continue the casting of the community challenge. I believe Greeky may be hopping in for some casting later, possibly. But we've got another match here for you coming up. Later on, stay tuned for Madlib versus Crimson Cantab. Both of those guys, I love those guys. They're kind of good PvP players. They're not maybe top of the top, but they are something that I aspire to because I'm absolutely atrocious. But I think I could possibly one day get to their level. So stick around for that Madlib Crimson game later on. And then finally, later in the day, around, what is that, about 4 hours from now, we'll have Greeky versus Ares RTS. Greeky versus Ares RTS should also be an excellent game. Greeky and Ares are both pretty good players in Age of Empires Online, so it's going to be a lot of fun to check out that match later on in the day. Hopefully I can hop back into the audience later on today or check out the VOD later. But again, folks, please stick around. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. We're going to switch the casters and the streamers. Ardashir is going to pick up the streaming. So stick around for the next match. Thanks for tuning in. Check out the link in the description for Age of Empires Online Project Celeste. It's some of the most fun you'll have in your life. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, guys. See you.